We're here with the iconic Mel Haber, owner and proprietor of the legendary Melvin's at the Ingleside Inn?
Correct.
Okay, got that right. And it is an official relic?
I am the official
You are?
relic, yes.
Okay. Okay.
Ingleside Inn happens to be an official historic site of the city of Palm
But you're the
Springs.
relic.
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
All right. So you started life in New York,
I did.
and I have a feeling that you became sort of an entrepreneur, businessman at a very young age.
Yes, I was in New York. I was involved in lots of different things. I don't know that any of them were particularly successful, but I was in action, so to speak.
So what was the first sort of business thing you had going as a
Well, I manufactured novelties for cars. I manufactured the hula dolls that went in the back of the car.
And the dice, right? Hanging
Yes,
dice.
exactly. I made 700 items, not one of which did anything. Okay, you didn't need anything. I made the dice that, as you said, I made the tiger tail that came out of the tank, the religious statues, all the nonsense. But the kids bought it, so it was pretty successful.
Wow. And when did you leave New York?
I left New York in 1974, came out to California, going through the proverbial midlife crisis. And I came out to California, fell in love with it, and in that time I stumbled down to Palm Springs and fell in love with Palm Springs. And then I found this property called the Ingleside Inn, which was derelict. The country was in a recession. It was 2 acres in the middle of Palm Springs. It was operating as a sleepy old hotel, but I had no interest in a hotel or restaurant, no interest, just the 2 acres of property.
Okay.
But as a couple of months passed, I bought it in April of 1975, and a couple of months passed, and I said, why don't I take a shot at running a hotel and restaurant, just dropping out. If I could just earn a living in Palm Springs, it's paradise.
Right.
And I opened up, and as they say, the rest is history. I made every mistake in the book, Bonnie. If I opened up in this market, I would have been broke in 30 days. But nothing was happening, and I was able to overcome all these mistakes, and it's now 40 years later, and I've had quite a run.
Tell me a couple of mistakes that if you...
Oh,
that you did.
they're gross. I mean, we had chicken coming out of the kitchen with red blood coming out of it,
Oh.
serving to the guests.
Oh.
We built a kitchen with no pantry because I didn't know what a pantry was. Somebody said, where's the pantry? I said, what's a pantry? And he said, that's where the cold food comes out of. Duh. I didn't know anything about it, and that's not to imply that I know anything today. I'm proud to say 40 years later, I don't know any more about this business.
You hired the right people.
I got very lucky. Yes, I did. Thank God for my staff, some of which have been with me 40 years. And incidentally, ironically, my maitre d', who's very famous, Brian, he came to the restaurant with no knowledge. He never worked in another restaurant. Between the two of us, we brought nothing to the table. But the guy upstairs was watching over us, and we made it.
So when Brian came to interview for a job, what made you hire him if you had no...
Well, he was hired as a waiter by the maitre d' at that time,
Okay.
who was a real maitre d'.
Okay.
But Brian was hired as I don't remember busboy or waiter, but he started at the bottom.
Stuck around and worked his way out?
Yeah, and worked his way out.
Yeah.
And we all learned together, so to speak. And you listen to your customers.
Yeah.
Just listen. They'll tell you what's wrong, what's going on.
And I know there's some wonderful, wonderful stories about Melvin's. Well, one of my favorites is your, I guess, grand opening night and some of your guests and some folks that came driving up on a motorcycle.
Yes. There was a guy who was a parking lot attendant at Lyons English Grill that took a liking to me over the summer of '75 as I was remodeling. He hung around every day because Lyons was closed. And he said, when you open up, I'll send everybody up there to see your place. And it's opening night, and I am nervous as a cat, as you can imagine. And everybody in the restaurant, it's the who's who of Palm Springs.
Yeah.
The lady who owns the 21 Club in New York, the mayor of Palm Springs, Frank Bogart, Mr. and Mrs. Florsheim from the... Just every big name in Palm Springs was there to see what Melvin's was all about. And during the course of the night, many people came up and said the parking lot guy at Lyons English Grill said I had to come up and see this. And Jimmy Francioso, the actor, was one of them. Must have been 25 people that came up. Well, during the course of the night, I went outside to have a smoke. I was pretty nervous. And a motorcycle pulls up with a guy and a girl. Pretty girl on the back, guy, but they're dressed like motorcycle people. And I said, buddy, do me a favor, give me a break. It's my opening night. And the guy looks at me and smiles, and he takes off. Well, the guy from Lyons English Grill comes up an hour later. He says, Mel, how'd your opening night go? I said, it was the greatest. He said, what'd you get the people? I got everybody. I can't believe how many people you sent up. He said, what'd you think of Steve McQueen and Ali McGraw? I said, I never got Steve McQueen. He says, he was on a big blue Harley. And everybody remembers that story.
Yeah.
And that was the first of 1,000 foot and mouth stories that I experienced in my career here.
And I believe Frank Sinatra and Barbara had their
Pre-wedding dinner. The
pre-wedding
night before they got married at the
dinner.
Annenberg estate, they took over the restaurant and had the pre-wedding dinner at Melvin's. And Sinatra was a regular customer. Quite a man, I must tell you.
Yeah.
The only man I've ever been in awe of. There was an aura about him of such power that it was just scary.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yep.
Who were some of your favorite? I know you've had a lot of celebrities. They're all over the walls. There are pictures of Mel with celebrities. And
I have an interesting answer. I've been asked that
Okay.
often, and I have no problem coming up with my favorite celebrity, and of all people, it turns out to be Dinah Shore. And I must tell you, when Dinah Shore was going with Burt Reynolds, to me, Dinah Shore was vanilla, Middle America, whatever,
Right.
and Burt Reynolds was the hunk, and I
Yeah.
never understood the
the
relationship.
connection, yeah.
When I met Dinah Shore, you wanted to hug her. There was something so sensuous about that woman, so wonderful, that I understood Burt Reynolds, and we became really reasonably friendly. She came in quite often, especially during the Dinah Shore golf
Sure.
tournament. She would bring a lot of people in, and she was just an amazing, wonderful, sweet, warm human being.
I never met her in person, but she always seemed like she sort of had a glow about her.
Yes, there was,
you know.
yes, she was a wonderful lady. So without a doubt, she was my favorite celebrity.
What do you think is the secret of Melvin's success and your success here in Palm Springs?
I think there's some magic about the fact that the property was built 100 years ago, 1925, almost 100 years, 90 years. And there's an ambience and there's a charm there that I didn't create. I take a little credit for not destroying it. And there's some magic there. And people say, why don't you open another Ingleside Inn? And if I knew how to create the ambience of a 90-year-old property, I'd do it. But there's some charm and there's some tranquility or serenity, whatever adjective you want to use about the place. And I've had employees, the average age of the employee with me is 35 years, and I attribute that not to me, but to the atmosphere there, which I inherited.
And you also made it a point over the years, correct? You do not shut down in the summer. You never shut down.
We've never
right?
closed one day in 40 years. That doesn't mean I don't lose a lot of money over the summer, but I just never closed.
Wow. You're involved with a new charity, I
A brand
understand?
new charity called Safe House of the Desert, which serves youth in crisis, children who were thrown out of the home. Currently in the news is children who were trafficked, young girls who were trafficked.
Terrible.
And Safe House was a pioneer with that, with the Riverside County Sheriff's Department. And we take in children who have been trafficked. They do wonderful work. They've been around 25 years in Riverside. They've been in the Coachella Valley for 6 years. We have 40 beds over in Thousand Palms, and they do marvelous work. And I was with Angel View for 31 years. I was the president for the last 20-something years. And they're so big now. We have 19 homes, 19 thrift marts. It's like running IBM.
Right.
Now that I joined Safe House, it's like I get
A new
my
challenge.
hand. Exactly. I could see the results of what I'm doing.
Now, I know you have at least one book, Bedtime Stories from the Ingleside Inn.
Of the legendary Ingleside
legendary,
Inn. And the other one is called Palm Springs a la carte, which is biography that was written by a professional writer, Marshall Terrell.
Yeah. Well, Mel Haber, if you haven't been to Melvin's, if you come into the Palm Springs area and you haven't experienced Melvin's, you got to check it out, especially this Sunday Jazz Jam in the afternoon. Mel Haber, thank you so very much.
Thank you,
Continued
Bonnie. Nice
success.
to see you.
Thank you.
Thank you.